start on time. Today is the 9th of February, 2023, Christian calendar year. And today is Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Last week we talked about, let me get the shared screen up. Last week we talked about, what did we talk about last week? Let's see. Last week we talked about the question and answer session on Ask YeSharon. Now, I was asking and charging and tasking you guys with giving me some questions so I can build that question and answer session page of the website so more have information as it relates to questions about nationality. So that was what we kind of talked about last week. We had a list of questions that I bled into this platform. Give me 1 second. So I didn't quite add all of the questions that were coming up, but a lot of them were very, very, very informative questions. And today I did want to bridge on that if people had other questions that they wanted to add to the question and answer session, which is the Ask Akasha or Ask YeSharon. I should have said Ask Akasha, but Ask YeSharon. So it'll help more to at least the basic questions that they have for nationality can be at least started, as well as a way to know what what's out there. So it's kind of like an informative. It's kind of like an informative website or page of the website that is under development that used to be the Moorish National Republic Federal Government, Northeast and Mexican Territories and Dominions, and originally before that it was the Moorish American Consulate.org, and that is still the web address that is being used because everybody knows to go there. Now, that being said, it is now preliminarily the name of the academy, which is an academy that pretty much has been morphing and manifesting and turning into an academy to help the Moors navigate through nationality, know where to go, what states are being popped up. So it's kind of turning into the Lighthouse Academy. That's probably what it should have been called, the Lighthouse Academy. But everybody knows my name and knows me, so I figured to keep so people wouldn't have to look all over the place and then fall into a lot of nonsense that is on the social media outlets, which the World Wide Web is one of those social media outlets. I went with Ask YeSharon, and I went with Ask YeSharon because actually there was more on here that said Ask YeSharon, Ask YeSharon. So I said, you know what, I'm going to stay with that process in Ask YeSharon. So the website is under my trust and is going to be preliminarily the YeSharon Moabite Star Academy. And this is going to be, this page specifically that we're talking about is Ask YeSharon. It's really going to be called Frequently Asked Questions, Question and Answer Session from people who are looking at nationality and have basic questions in regards to current state of things and what does nationality mean for them as it relates to where they stand in society today. I didn't add all of the other questions because I was kind of trying to answer the questions that I had or that another Moor had suggested to me last week, and I posted those up there. And as we get more and more questions, that page is going to just turn into like this never-ending page of questions as well as definitions that I'll probably have all the way at the end, or I might just call a page yet definitions. So you'll be able to just go look up, and they're usually going to come from Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition or earlier, if they have that particular definition, because when I'm out and about or I have a question or I need to or I'm doing a teaching session and I need to look up a definition of specific ones that we've already gone over through a lot of our study, the AMPAC study lessons, which I hope everybody is still making sure they're staying up on, in the More to More platform that's built to not only show you have access to those classes, but it's also to make sure you keep track of what classes you've watched and what classes you still have to watch, as well as gives me a tracking module to know where you are in your studies as it relates to me being an academy, being the YeSharon Moabite State, YeSharon Moabite Star Academy, which is preliminary the name of it. So I love what I do, and as it's formulating, I'm just letting Mother and the ancestors guide me as it relates to how to guide the Moors, so we can stop just playing house, because that's what it is that we're doing. We're playing house. Can everybody hear me? Because I think I just paused out a quick second.
Islam.
I just wanted to make sure. Okay. That being said, what was the question? So last week we went over some preliminary questions. I didn't bleed them into the website yet. But today's class, I really kind of wanted to kind of go off the question and answer the questions, unless you have a question that you think should be on the question and answer session. Then we can kind of keep going with at least the first 30 minutes of this class on the question and answer sessions. But I think I got a good amount to at least start, which is what I've done today. Start that in conjunction with all of my other duties and responsibilities throughout the day. So without further ado, are there any questions as it relates to any questions that you think would be helpful for Moors on the question and answers page of Ask YeSharon? And that's open to the floor for about 10, 15 minutes, because a lot of people are still coming in. So let's kind of stay there, at least for right now, in regards to giving people time to get in, because usually by about 7:45 we get a good amount of people in. And right now I literally just sent the email out like literally 5 minutes ago, about 10 minutes ago, I sent the email out because I was like involved in a lot of things today. So that being said, I know people don't like to ask questions, or people don't like to talk on the platform. Floor is open.
Yes, my name is Jackson. Can I have
Okay, meet me back.
Okay. There's Kenneth had a question, and Wakita had a question. So who's unmuted? I think Kenneth. What is your question that you wanted to add to the question and answer?
I haven't checked out those questions, but one of my questions I will have checking on nationality and about our nationality is who's who. I mean, what do the ancestors call themselves from a national standpoint? Who are the parties involved in the reference of them? You know,
that's not a question and answer question. That's not a question. You're asking a very detailed, long course question. We're talking about basic questions about nationality in regards to what Moors who are considering declaring or proclaiming their nationality, what are the basic questions that most Moors, when they're coming in, have as it relates to what that looks like. That was kind of the question. Now, history, questions on something deep as history can't be answered, obviously, in question and answer sessions. Can't be answered there. The only thing I will be able to do is refer you to the Circle 7 chapters 46, 47, and I think 45, 46, and 47, which talks about our bloodline and birthright. So what would be a more simpler question as it relates to what you were just about to say?
Okay, national. I think most people will not know about nationality and importance to it. And I know that under the Declaration of Rights of a Child, I know that it states that you have a right to nationality and a right to a name. So
no, you're still going over the question. You're going over it. You're going to a deep, teaching session. Take yourself out of Kenneth L. Bay as a person who knows some things, and put yourself in the position of a person who's just looking at nationality and have basic questions as it relates to how their life is going to change, or just basic. You making this difficult. Why'd you raise your hand if you didn't have a specific question?
I apologize for that. I just have my mind.
Islam, yield. You're going to yield till you come up with a question. Wakita, what was your question?
Islam, how everybody doing?
Islam.
I wanted to add to the list I didn't remember if we talked about the allodial birth certificate specifically for the new baby, and how is that process of having an allodial birth certificate for a newborn?
Do you think a newborn looking to come in would ask that question like that? They wouldn't even say allodial.
No, see that I know too much to say that.
Right. But you gotta kind of take yourself as a knowledgeable Moor and put yourself in. Well, damn, like, what is nationality? Obviously, so you get so by the time they're coming up to that website, because overstand, Moors are going to be pushing people to just go to the question and answer session if you have specific questions, because if you're not competent to answer certain questions, it's best for you to just refer to the question and answer, so you don't sit here and say the wrong thing, or kind of seem like you might know what you're talking about. Go ahead.
How do I nationalize my newborn? Or how do I nationalize my children? And maybe that's more simple.
Okay. And it's so funny because the answer to that would be the same way you do yourself. If you've already, if the children, it would depend on are they existing now, or are you pregnant, expecting as a new expected mother? So that question could be answered differently, or asked, or yes, answered differently if the children are already exist,
or if she's expecting.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just add that to the frequently asked questions for under the children.
Okay.
Islam, may I add to that question?
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, is the child already present, or is the mother expecting? And information, or maybe we could say the express information, is needed for those who may or just entering, and like you mentioned, they may not know the advanced words, but they know, hey, I don't want to go to the hospital, but in this current situation, this is the route with that checklist, so I know I can get in and out, and being able to align my bloodline correctly still. I don't know if that helps or not.
Now, one of the things I want y'all to know, okay, which is going to be part of the department this would fall under for expected, now we're speaking Moors that are already declared as Moroccan nationals through a nation state. So if a Moor who's already nationalized through a Moroccan state is expecting, their question will be, well, I want to have my child, and I want to make sure they don't try to put it under the jurisdiction of the United States of America, right? Through that birth record, if I feel, because most mothers are going to feel comfortable or more comfortable because of just, knowledge of self and knowledge of birthing processes, are going to feel more comfortable going to a hospital to have children. Plus, when they go through their prenatal appointments, they're going to scare the shit out of them, so they'll make sure they do go to a hospital. That's their whole MO, because they want to make sure those children are born in that hospital so they can put them under their estate, right? As untrained children. I was like, so for a mother, a Moroccan national who is nationalized through a state, there's going to be, it's not a situation where that hospital is not going to know who you are. That hospital is that you plan on, and this is considered a birthing plan. So I don't want to kind of go deeper into that, because this is question and answer session, and y'all know y'all get me going way down rabbit holes that I ain't trying to go down. So I would take that question and answer that question as an official of a state, so they would know pretty much the protocols that would be in place, that are being in place now through the different departments within the government that are going to be responsible for providing that service. Which is why it's so important for nation states to be established all through the country and all through the different corporate states, because there's going to be a need for a lot of supporting staffs within those departments. For instance, like I said, just to go maybe a couple minutes into what you're saying is, okay, when you go to the hospital, they're already going to have a birthing plan. They're already going to know you're a Moroccan national. They're already going to know the protocols and the processes for which not to establish any type of documentation, because the Moroccan state, let's say, or the insurance company that particular Moor has is going to, until we start getting stipends through taxes and fees and fines and penalties and interest that foreigners have in our jurisdictions within our Moroccan states. That's how those states are going to be funded, and then that funding will be trickled down to the department so they can provide the services that they so stipulate and need for the Moors. That was a long question, a long answer, but not as long as it could have been. Anybody have any other questions that they want to add to the question and answer sessions for Moors that are coming into consciousness and nationality and have questions on the frequently asked questions list?
Islam.
Okay, so I'm new to this. I just had a baby and sent off for the birth certificate. Do I still need a baby deed?
Okay, you overstand. This is a question and answer session. Okay, so what did you ask again? Because you said I just had a baby, right?
Right.
I'm trying to formulate that into a question.
Like somebody's coming in, a mother, she just had a baby and had got the baby's birth certificate. Does she still need to have a baby deed?
Does she still need to have a who?
Baby deed.
A baby deed. Did you just say baby deed?
Deed for the baby.
Oh God, what language is this woman using? Who says baby deed?
I do, apparently. I guess nobody else does.
What state you domicile near?
Ohio.
They call them baby deeds as opposed to birth certificates?
Yeah. Some people don't say birth certificates. They say baby deeds. Like I guess
this is the first I've ever heard of that. Oh my God!
Yeah,
do you
I
realize?
guess you fill out some type of paper instead of using a birth certificate to put the baby in the jurisdiction, and you have the baby deed like notarized or put on record, basically.
Oh, so this is something someone created to not do the birth certificate. Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Okay, so now ask the question again.
Come in and have that question, like, how will we answer that?
Now ask that question again. Now that I have some idea of what you're talking about. Now ask the question again.
Hi, I'm new to this. I just had a baby. I sent off for the birth certificate. Do I still need to have a baby deed?
I sent out for a birth certificate. Do I still need a baby deed? I have such issues with that question that I don't even know how to answer that. Because the first thing I was saying, what's the difference between a birth certificate and a baby deed? Where are you getting the baby deed done? Where's the baby deed getting done at?
I guess this is some kind of, basically maybe like an affidavit, I think.
So they're doing, so it's like a private.
Interject?
Hold on. So you're saying that it's a private birth record as opposed to a baby deed. You're just calling it a baby deed because a deed is interest in property. You don't ever want to call anything a baby deed.
Yeah, that's just a term I'm used, but you said answer questions somebody new coming in. If they're
oh my God, that's a difficult question. You gave me a difficult one. I'm sitting here like you using language that I ain't even heard in a corporate jurisdiction.
I'm sorry.
You said a baby deed. I was like, a deed is interest in property. Well, you don't want to do that.
Yeah, they call it a baby deed. Mm-hmm.
Islam. So in that situation, the first thing I would say is, one, you have your status is important. And I don't want to roll into the next topic that I want to talk about because of the alarming calls I got the past 2 days with consultations. I got to clear up some ideas, and I think this class, so please do not unmute. So please do not put your cameras on, is going to be on YouTube. Do I have the consent to put this on YouTube? But don't put your cameras on because I don't want you on YouTube.
Islam.
Because of the topic of tonight's class.
Islam.
All right. That being said, do we have any other question and answer sessions? Because it seems like we're going to roll into the topic of tonight's discussion anyway, because it feels like you're putting me there, and I think I just froze. Did I just freeze?
Nope.
Islam.
Okay, it must be just happening on my end, and that's a great thing. Okay, any other questions that new Moors, not experienced Moors, that new Moors would have with declaring and proclaiming their nationality? Does anybody have any questions that they think they want to add to the list? Okay, I'm going to give you just 2 more seconds. Okay.
Islam,
Islam, Sean.
I have a question. So I'm thinking a new more would say, what do I do if I need help, if I get in trouble? Who do I call? What's the I guess I don't know how to say procedure, like who do I call first? If I don't get that person, who do I call next? You know what I'm saying?
I just wrote that down. That would be an interesting question to ask because, like, as a person, it would depend on what type of trouble you got into. And I guess for Moors who are coming from Black, Negro, colored status, the biggest trouble would be, I guess, if they got arrested. So if I got it, so the better way in this particular question to at least streamline the answer, the possible potential answers would, if I was arrested or if I was unlawfully detained, who would I call first? Who would I contact?
Yes.
Okay. And y'all keep rolling right into the topic of tonight's discussion, and it has to be this discussion. All right. I've had so many questions. Let me tell you the 5 topics that I put on the question and answer sessions because it's usually the first ones that everybody asks. The first question that everybody asks is the questions about nationality. The first, I guess, 5 questions that I got courtesy to Amor a couple of days ago was, how do I declare my nationality? Number 2 was, do I have to change my last name? Number 3 was, why are there so many definitions of Moor? I don't see why that's relevant, but they might ask that question. If I declare my nationality, am I required to give up my religion? And which is a very good one, which people ask a lot. And number 5, should I authenticate the birth certificate? Which is a question that only Moors that are out there in the UCC / secure party creditor world would ask. That would be a question that they would specifically ask because that is a UCC / secure party creditor question. The second category of questions was child custody. That's what we're going to pretty much talk about today. The third one is property. The fourth one is taxes, detainment, which is where this question that you particularly asked would be filed, and then jurisdiction. And then last class, a couple of questions that were asked is, can I walk around with my firearm? So I guess that would be another category, the right to bear arms or something like that. Do I have the right, and do I have the right to bear arms? Another question was in regards to transportation. So transportation would be which would be in terms of travel, the right to travel, because a lot of Moors are in the commercial business of CDL licensing, so they would like to know how that would affect them. How to operate a trust, so trust questions would pretty much be asked, which is a good one. And then insurance, which would be under transportation and travel. I was like, so those were basically the questions that we got from last class because people was morphing into longer conversations, which I was trying to push on to just question and answer sessions. But since there's nobody else, since there's no one currently present on this call that has another question or any other additional questions to add, I'm going to table that But if you come up in something, a question comes into your mind, please either post it in the chat. I'm sorry.
Let me get a prayer offer each.
Did you ask a question? Okay. So if you think of a question later, just either put it in the chat or reserve it just write it down and reserve it towards the end of class, and maybe the last 10 minutes I'll see if we have any additional questions to add to the question and answer session of the Ask Akasha, because I will be working on that with the other host of pages on the government site as well as on the Academy site. So one of the things I wanted to show you guys that I was working on to coincide with training, oh my goodness, everything is so slow today and it's driving me insane. Give me a second. I'm going to see if I can pull it up. No, maybe I don't want to do that yet. I don't think I want to do that yet. There's a site that I want to pull up, and it's a site that I'm working on. And this site might move, but I'm not sure yet. From one platform, one website to another, but I'm not sure as it relates to that yet. I think it's a good idea for me to do it because it coincides with the Academy. It coincides with both, actually. So this, as it comes up, is a timeline. Remember a couple of weeks ago, or maybe even a couple of months ago, we established a timeline, and we were working on it, and I also emailed you that preliminary timeline that was based on this research and the study being done under the AMPAC study lessons, the 1 through 88 AMPAC study lessons that are in the More to More platform, which is right here. You'll be able to find them here, and then you'll be able to go and view them in here where they can be tracked in regards to where you are in that training. So since all of this stuff coincides to one another, for you to have easy access to this information, and don't just have to keep being so stressed out about where did you follow that, where is it at, you can't find it, and different things like that, you can kind of go as this page opens, because it's so slow. This is one of the pages. It's called the Historical Timeline Matrix. And this is based on the readings of the AMPAC study lessons to get a little bit more competent on what happened, what we need to do to fix it, and what are the steps in order to fix our statelessness that we appear to be in, or that Moors appear to have been in since at least 1777. So this is a web page that I am working on now, and it has all that information in here. So it starts with pretty much when we lost our nationality around about that time, and it actually kind of coincides with establishment of the United States Service Company. Take your camera off, Athena, because this is going to be on. Thank you. Because it's going to be a video that I'm going to post on YouTube, so I don't want anybody's personal business to be on YouTube. So yeah, do that. So anyway, this is a pretty cool site based on that's going to be up and running, but I'm not sure if it's going to stay where it's at or if I'm going to move it to the Academy. I'm not sure yet. I wonder if I can just move it to the Academy. That would be an interesting thing instead of like literally recreating it. So what do I want to say when I say that? So here's all of the amendments. So like if it's talking about the 14th Amendment, you can click here and that amendment will come up. I don't want to click it because for some reason there's a lag tonight in terms of the internet, but all of these buttons here you're able to click in order to view the document that so supports what that is saying. Are you recording? Yes, I am. Take your camera off, Athena. It keeps coming back on. Take your camera off. What do you say? Thank you. So yeah, I done clicked on it, so it's already clicked on. So it's going to automatically take you to that source document, so you don't just go based on what people say or just because they're reading off certain segments within a class. I want you to be able to go look at that source data and read it. That is how you're really going to learn this stuff, and at least be able to reference it later. Okay? Now, that being said, if you see there's the, I have put links in to specific things that are, and it ties and it coincides with the timeline, and it coincides with how we lost our state, and as well as how we get it back. The Treaty of Madrid is right here, so you would click on that. And then at the end of this, you have all of the other treaties that we felt were very important for you to know. But again, I'm not sure if I'm going to put this on the government site or if I'm going to move it to YeSharon Moabite Star Academy, because it coincides more with research and study, and I think it'd probably be a better place to house it. I'm not sure yet. I got to think about it. Give me a minute. It'll take a minute for me to think about where I want to move it. If it's going to stay there or if I'm going to move it off and put it where, but then I will probably have to do all this stuff again, and I ain't trying to do all this stuff again. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to ultimately do. That being said, the topic I want to talk about is child custody. And why do I want to talk about this? Because this is a topic of discussion consistently. I've had probably 10 consultations in the past couple of weeks, and they all revolve around the major categories that Moors are filling with and being subjugated with in regards to colonialism through the United States Service Corporation. It is nationality, status, it is taxes, it is child custody, it is detainments, it is property, and its jurisdiction. So those are the major topics that Moors have. And the preliminary, which is why I started working on the, coinciding with these different questions, was to kind of give Moors an idea of why Moroccan statehood is necessary. And without it, you're fighting an uphill battle with custody in their jurisdiction. What do I mean when I say that? Many people are dealing with displacement of their children within this jurisdiction. Why are they dealing with that? They're dealing with that because Moors inadvertently signed all their rights to their children to the corporate state through the birth certificate, which was filed through with our consent. Because acquiescence and ignorance does not absolve of the fact that we're signing and doing things, even though we learned it from our mothers and our mother's mother. We're doing it without even knowing what it is that we're doing. And I'm not saying that we are at fault, but when you recognize a problem, you fix it. And that's all you do is you fix it. Okay? So when we had our children, we inadvertently signed them over to the state when we gave birth to them in the hospitals. We signed them over to the state, right? We became a parent. A parent in the legal sense of the word is someone who's clothed with authority, but that's a privilege that is bestowed upon them within a particular jurisdiction. And I want to go to the definition of a parent in the Black's Law Dictionary, because this is important. And hopefully it won't take too long to get to it, because like I said, this computer is running slow today, and when it does this, I usually go take a break or something, but I'm having class, so I can't just take a break and wait for it to start acting up or do some shut it down and then restart it, which is what I would normally do on these situations where it's working a little slow. So the definition that we're looking up is parent. What is the legal definition of a parent? Has anybody looked it up yet? Does anybody want to say what a parent is? Or are y'all going to wait for me to go find it in my slow computer today? It is really acting slow. And if you found it, Razine, if you didn't, Razine, if you don't mind, please copy and paste it in the chat if you find it. I'm trying to get to it fast, and it's not letting me. Okay. All right, here we go. And normally when you're looking up words, it's always best to go a word before it and a word after it, okay? So we got here, when we look at the definition of parent, so the lawful father or the mother of a person, okay? Now, person is not being validated, by the way, just so you know. It's just saying person. So they could be talking about an artificial person, or they could be talking about a natural person. They're not being distinctive as it relates to what they're talking about. In addition to that, this word is distinguished from ancestors, including only the immediate progenitors of the person. Now they're talking about progenitors, the people that came before the person, while the latter embraces his more remote relatives in the ascending line. The word parents should therefore not ordinarily be construed to include grandparents. Okay? Where are we at? But by the civil law, grandfathers and grandmothers and other ascendants were in certain cases considered parents. That's why your grandparents, and they do have rights, and they can take you to court to secure those rights if you don't let them see the children. And that reminds me in regards to one of the celebrities who was considering, I don't even know if he actually went through the proceedings, but I think it was Gabrielle Union's husband, basketball players, one of his sons, wanted to have a sex change. And the grandparents, through grandparents' rights, filed an injunction to stop him from allowing his, I think because at the time his son was 16 years old, for having this procedure because the grandparents felt as though he was too young to make such a life-altering decision. So that's an example, and I only say that because that's an example of a grandparent utilizing and building the rights that they do have in this jurisdiction as it relates to the children. Because guess what? In our ancestral background, turn your camera off, turn your camera off, turn your camera off, because this is going to be on YouTube. And I want you to understand is that he blocked my wisdom with his nakedness. I just want y'all to know. CL Bay. All right, let me try to get back to what I was talking about. The term literally can apply only to a father or a mother related by blood, including the parent of an illegitimate child. Commonwealth versus Webner. In excluding a stepfather or stepmother or one standing in locus parentis. Locus parentis is a good term. You need to write that down. I need to write that down. Because in law, that's what they're claiming. And your child is not considered a natural person in that jurisdiction. It's considered a what? It's considered a corporate person, okay? In their jurisdiction, you're not a living being. So when they talk about natural persons, they're not going to equate that to you because they can't have jurisdiction over a flesh and being, because that would be what? That would be slavery. You're not allowed to sign your children over to people for slavery, so that corporate word is how they identify your children in their system, even though they know exactly that's exactly what it means. In statutes, now I'm talking about in statutes, however, the word is commonly construed as including a stepmother. How can a stepmother have jurisdiction or parental rights in a child? How would she get that right? That's a question open to the floor, because that's a good question. How in law would a stepmother have rights over a child that she didn't have but is considered a parent of? What would be the legal document that would give her rights over another's children?
Islam, a marriage certificate.
Marriage certificate? That's one. Absolutely.
Adoption papers.
Adoption papers.
So you've been with the child when it was born, but it wasn't yours, and
When you came,
you're so low. Can no one hear? No one can hear you.
say like
You're always low.
when you get with someone and they have a child that is say 3 months old and don't know his birth father or something like that, and you become the parent.
In locos parentis. So I'm looking for in locos parentis now. Now I got to dig it. That's why I hate this online dictionary. It takes forever to get to where you need to go. Takes forever. Give me a second. I want to kind of go through what the issue is, because at the core of it, the issue literally is nationality. Nationality is how we reclaim our lost estate. And I'm trying to sync it up by making sure I do fundamental. Where is, there it goes, locos parentis. Okay. So the state is considered an in loco parentis. In loco parentis. And if you look at child custody documents, and if you look at certain things, that is exactly what the so-called state is as it relates to your children. In the place of a parent, instead of a parent charged fictitiously with a parent's rights, duties, and responsibilities. That is what the so-called state is as it relates to all of the children born with a birth certificate. Relinquishment of rights. So when a mother relinquished her rights as a parent, she just became a custodian in law. I don't even want to go. A person that is taking care of the child but has no lawful right to the child within that jurisdiction. Even though she has possession, physical, she doesn't have possession in law. Same too with conveyances. Same too with domiciles. Yada, 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 yada. So the state is claiming an in locos parentis position as it relates to the children. Now, what I was reading here was international law dictates that all people, persons, must not be stateless. So because there is no state, give me a second, Chriselle, because there is no state established by Moroccans to claim sovereignty on the land as well as to land and property. And what supports that is the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, because the Moors didn't establish a state, they became stateless, so their heirship, their assets, as well as them themselves, had to be conveyed into the hands, into the trust of someone worthy of responsibility. And does anybody know which article so stipulates that in the Treaty of Peace and Friendship? Does anybody want to answer? Take a stab at it.
Can you repeat that?
What treaty? What article within the Treaty of Peace and Friendship? Oh, goodness, you got me repeating it over again. I hate when y'all do this. Y'all really have to pay attention, because then when I am not writing these things down when I'm talking. All right. Here, I'm just going to read the freaking article. All right.
Well, you know, sometimes you say a lot, and so sometimes when you get to asking the question, you got to double back on it so we can take it in.
Y'all got to write it down. Then, how can I double back on my own question? I'm sitting here like 20 questions ahead, and y'all want me to go back to the first one I said. But I'll try to remember and recall what I said, because I'm flowing, and then you cut my wisdom by asking me to say it again. And now I got to figure out, well, what the heck, how did I word the question that I asked in regards to all of this? Now, the Moors are stateless. International law says that you can't be stateless, okay? So with that statelessness, the land and the trust of your possessions, that's everything, your possessions, had to be given to someone worthy of trust, someone who would be the successor as it relates to being able to grab your assets. Are y'all with me so far? Because I need to make sure.
Islam.
So,
Islam.
what article within the Treaty of Peace and Friendship so stipulates how your assets are to be transferred?
Islam, Article 22 is right there on the screen, right?
Oh, right. I mean, I did put it up there. Yeah, sorry. Sorry, y'all messed it up. I didn't mean to put it up there until after y'all said Article 22.
Yeah, you
but
just
when you
wanted
asked
to see if
me
we
that
had
question,
common sense, if we was woke or asleep.
All right, Article 22. So let me revamp what I said. Article 22 gives the United States of America jurisdiction over the assets of the Moors because they're dead because they didn't establish the states. But because they didn't establish the states, or they didn't come to claim their assets through establishment of states, because you can only claim it as a state, you can't claim it as an individual, which is what we all are learning and what we've been learning for the past 5 years, 10 years, however long Moors have been studying. So if we read Article 22, it reads, does anybody want to read Article 22?
If an American
read.
in our country.
Hold on. Go ahead, Godly. Go ahead. Just start. Go ahead. Wait a minute. Before you start, just say, okay, just go ahead. Never mind. Go ahead.
If an American citizen shall die in our country, and no will shall appear, the consul shall take possession of his effects. And if there shall be no consul, the effects shall be deposited in the hands of some person worthy of trust, until the party shall appear who has a right to demand them. But if the heir to the person deceased be present, the property shall be delivered to him without interruption. And if a will shall appear, the property shall descend agreeable to that will as soon as the consul shall declare the validity thereof.
Now, does everybody understand what that said?
Yes, I like it.
And then it also says how estates, it even has a header, how estates of deceased citizens shall be disposed of, right? And they're being more specific as it relates to, I mean, even Americans, if Americans shall die within the Moroccan Empire, right? We never thought that the reverse would happen, where Moors would be denationalized and not operating within their own jurisdiction through their own state. So that document says, okay, well, if there's no other party to the contract, then therefore I'm the only party to it, so I can claim ownership and jurisdiction as well as authority over the states. I mean, over the estates of the deceased Moors, and they're only deceased because they stopped operating within that political status. So the United States of America automatically gained jurisdiction over the estates of the Moors. That's pretty much the issue as it relates to our children, because through the United States of America and through their statutes, codes, and regulations within their municipal corporation, they created those departments to manage not only all of the estates and the assets of the Moors. And if you haven't understood, our people are, our children are our prodigy and are our heirs, and they're also our property. But we don't call them property; we call them heirs. They're under our possession. They're supposed to be in our house, right? But we put them in somebody else's house, even though we have physical custody. We don't have in possession. We don't have ownership. So when issues happen, they terminate those presumed rights that we thought we had as it relates to our children because of our statelessness. So it's difficult, and that is for every. Can you ask that question out just outright, Ra CG Bay, Ra GC Bay?
Oh, it was a question. I was just putting the comment. I'm sorry that you took it as a question. Okay. I was just saying that means that to reclaim your estate is always without statute of limitation. So that can be done by Moors forever at any time. Whenever they awaken, they can always reclaim what is there. Right. That's just the beautiful thing for most Moors.
Like 1 minute you're dead, and the next minute you say, "Oh, I'm alive. I'm not dead." And now, because you've claimed to be a living being and you've done your due diligence, because the realities are the United States of America, we don't necessarily have to go to international law or international court or the UN to reclaim our dominions. Why do we have to go there? Why are we there? Does anybody know why that has to happen currently?
To go to the UN, you say?
Yes.
No.
Would you say, Sincere?
Because of the, according to the video, he was talking about the Vienna Convention of 1969, dealing with the governance of international law now, and that's what they're under. That's what he said in the video.
Yeah. International law says the United States of America does not have to relinquish anything to us unless we come to that arena to receive it back. If that's a better way of explaining it. So in order for us to regain, can everybody turn their mics off? Because not their mics. Can everybody turn their see, everything just be popping up. I might have somebody in the background of my computer networked in some kind of way because I'm just seeing too much. Because I want to put this class on YouTube, so I don't want y'all on Facebook. I don't want y'all out. You're not going to. Does the world have to see you eating sunflower seeds, Sincere? Turn your camera off. Turn your cameras off. Please, 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 and thank you. Okay. And I'm doing this for you. I ain't doing it for me. Just don't turn your cameras on. All right. So where was I at? Because I got distracted by Sincere as always.
Why we have to go to the UN?
Yes, we have to go to the UN because we have to reclaim our estate, and they're not going to relinquish without us going to that arena in order to reclaim it. Not to mention, we get support internationally when we do go to international law. We have the support of 193 nations to support, and they all based on the treaties of decolonization. Even though the colonizers initially are the so-called G5. Does anybody know what the G5 means? Let's see if y'all really studying and really watching y'all classes like y'all say y'all watching y'all classes. And if y'all gotten far enough to know what the G5 and the UN means or represents.
I'm on class 8. I don't remember no G5.
Okay. It ain't in class 8. It's a little further along.
G5 isn't that the First Nations, France, Spain, Germany, and the UK.
The United States and Russia.
United States, right.
So say it slower and go again.
The First Nations, first top 5 nations, United Kingdom, Germany, Spain, France, United States, Russia.
So one of them is not there. Is it Spain? Is Spain one? China's there. What's the G5? Let me go see the G5 of the UN because you said 6. And I want to make sure I'm right with who the G5 is.
United States.
This computer is tripping.
Germany. All of them but Russia. It's Russia. Russia's not there.
Russia's not there?
Right.
So let's just make sure we clear on it because I did the research a while ago and I don't have that in front of me.
So is it Britain, French, Spanish, Spain, Portugal?
No. We're talking about the G5. We will call the Supreme Council of the UN, which would be the nations that established it initially. And I think they all represent the initial states that were under the jurisdiction of the Sultan. Remember,
It's China, France, Russian Federation, United Kingdom, and United States.
Islam. Now say that again so I can put it in the chat.
China, France, Russian Federation, the United Kingdom, and the United States.
I thought, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, there you go. China, France, Russia, United Kingdom, and United States. So the only one that was missing was Spain, because I didn't think Spain was there. I didn't think they were there. At the G5. Now they're there at the UN. They're just not a part of the G5 Islam of the United Nations. Thank you for that. So where are we at next? What was we talking about next, y'all?
Can I add something? Can I say something real quick?
Absolutely.
3 of those countries that y'all was just naming that's in the G5, they were actually also part of the BRICS people, or BRICS, or whatever they call it. The group of countries that's trying to take the United States off of the
currency.
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
That's true. That's true. And was it? I forgot what state. Was it? One of the brown people, or the I don't know. Was it the Hindustani? Was it Israelia? One of the countries just came on board, like literally maybe a couple of months ago, in terms of the gold standard of currency, getting back on the gold standard.
Yeah.
Say it again.
Saudi Arabia, because they're going to take the U.S. off the petrodollar now. Saudi Arabia.
Yes, Saudi Arabia. And does anybody know why they're doing all of this? Why they're really getting away from the United States?
They're all going to go back on the gold standard so they can basically, they want to get rid of the U.S. dollar, because the dollar has, no real backing.
What was backing the dollar, which is why it no longer has any value?
Our birth certificates were. That's it.
Okay, birth certificates. Be more specific, baby girl.
Bonds. The bonds.
The Moors in the Moorish estate, y'all. Can y'all be specific with your answers, man? Seriously. Like, y'all, Marquita, you at that level where you say, yeah, the Moors and the estate of the Moors is what was backing the U.S. dollar. It's us, our work, our labor, because overseas, all of us who has had jobs was working for free. You ain't made no money. So our labor, our energy, our resources, all the things that we created in our minds in literally helped the United States become this ruling power, that was all us. As well as the land, the wealth, the air, the aviation, all of that is our state. They no longer have the right, with the emergence of the Moroccans back into statehood, to control those assets anymore, which made all of their commercial paper actually paper now. Useless, worthless paper, because it's not backed and it's not authorized by the heirs anymore. That's literally why when they talk about what's backing the fiat, the Moors were backing the fiat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it, y'all.
Slavery.
We gave them the accessibility. Let's be more specific. We gave them the power, the resources, as well as all types of inventions that we have been doing against ourselves and against every other nation. We've been doing that.
And all those shell companies are bankrupt. That's why everything is over in a Federal Reserve now.
Islam. So realize that's why they had to change the dollar system and the money system, because they know darn well under that de facto system, nothing was going to penalize them from how they were operating, how they were doing business.
Right.
Literally. So they're not doing it because they want to get back into alignment because there's some awesome people. They're doing it because they know the Moors coming to bang that. Coming. The Moors are coming to reclaim their assets, to reclaim their position. And they're just getting in alignment right now because of that. Islam? So when we sit here and talk about custody, and we sit here and talk about all of our problems, they are all remedied through Moroccan stasis. They're remedied because now we have a standing on the chessboard that we literally didn't have a position on, besides being pawns and used on whoever is ruling our empire at that particular time. So I actually had an epiphany earlier today, y'all. And when I was going over and doing some research as it relates to the Treaty of Fez, everybody thinks that Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and this is the consensus, when Prophet Noble Drew Ali went to the Geneva Convention, he got the patent for the land back for the Moors. Everybody says that, right? However, nobody validates that. That was back in what year did he so-called did that? Or is everyone claiming he did that?
Was it 1913 or
1913? What else happened in 1913 that I think supersedes that? I don't think one had anything to do with the other. I don't think that. I think a certain thing happened in 1913 that sent the so-called United States into frenzy. Does anybody know what that is? And we've been studying it, by the way.
When France working on the outside and Noble Drew Ali working on the inside, they both kind of like.
Thank you, Razim. Now, I don't go with mysticism anymore. I don't do it. We have no proof, none, in the Geneva Convention. Is it the Geneva? Was it the Pan-African Conference or was it Geneva Convention, y'all? Which one was it? Where a lot of the Moors were claiming that he got the land patent back from the United States. What convention was it? Does anybody know what particular convention that was? I'm not sure.
Convention.
Say that again.
I mentioned Jet. It was the Pan American Conference. That's in 1928, February the 20th.
Okay, so it wasn't a Pan American Conference. What's the next one? That might be which they're talking about in terms of the crash in 1933. So there you go. So thank you for that correction. You are correct. Say it again.
Pan American Conference, February the 20th of 1928.
Right. So what happened so somebody posted it. Now let me go backtrack. What happened in 1912, 1913 that crashed the markets in the United States?
Federal Reserve Act 1913.
The Federal Reserve Act was created as a
It was some of 1906.
The Federal Reserve Act was somewhere to hide.
Well, somebody just posted it in the darn chat. Y'all looking at the chat. The Treaty of Fez, y'all. The Treaty of Fez. What happened with the Treaty of Fez? Come on, y'all doing your research? What's going on? Y'all need to take calcium. No, magnesium. Y'all brains be tripping when it's time for class. What happened with the Treaty of Fez?
Is that when they started the Federal Reserve?
The Federal Reserve was started in what year? Does anybody actually know the year?
1913.
Because it had something to do with that Treaty of Fez of 1912.
That was with France coming in, right?
So I guess y'all want me to talk about it. Is that what it is? Because y'all can't remember.
Yeah, I'm not really.
What did the Treaty of Fez do? What did the Treaty of Fez do? What did it grant? What did it authorize? What did it secure? Come on, Ra. Ra should know this. Kenneth should know this.
I'm a little bit lost, but it's the Cease to KV. Was it the Cease to KV Act?
The sister. Say this again.
Right, CCKV, which means they declared the people dead.
And what document did that?
You broke up there. Say it again.
What document did that? What law? What legislation?
Oh, I'm not sure.
14th Amendment.
It's been a while.
14th Amendment. What year was the 14th Amendment ratified? And ratified means signed into law.
It was never ratified.
Signed into law. Come on, be specific.
1868.
What year, Sade? You're getting off the topic. You brought up 14th Amendment. When the heck did the 14th Amendment come out?
Oh, well, hey, I gave you an answer. I ain't looked for the second part.
1868, woman.
18, hey, I didn't ask you.
What did your consort say? What year?
1868, man. Shut up.
So he said 1868. Does that coincide with the topic of discussion in 1912?
Obviously it doesn't.
That's why the timeline is so important for y'all to get the dates right, because the Prophet Noble Jew Ali going to the Pan American I can't even say it right. Can you put in the chat?
Pan American Conference.
Thank you. Pan American Conference. Now, and that was in 1926, right?
28, February the 20th.
February. So you know what's interesting to me? We don't have any transcripts from that conference that tells us what happened at that conference. We don't have anything. I haven't seen anything. Has anybody on this platform seen any proof as it relates to him being there, as well as what was discussed there?
No.
What she said about?
I've been looking for that
since I started this whole move. Since I started, so I have been unavailable to validate or substantiate what he did back in that to destabilize the economy in 1930. Well, around that time, because the destabilization didn't just happen in one day or 1 year. It was a sequence of events.
Hey, I thought you made a timeline about that.
So I don't like talking about it because I can't validate or substantiate anything happened that he specifically did.
Hello?
Supposedly, whatever happened, those minutes are sealed specifically to the year 2027. I've heard that.
If they're sealed, that means whoever granted them, right? If they're sealed, don't have. I mean. Okay.
One document that we do have, we have transcripts from 1933.
All I'm trying to tell y'all is
we have transcripts.
It's supposed to be sealed until 2027. Okay, what validation do you have for that? Because in order for something to be sealed, why would they say, okay, it's going to come out in 27? If it's sealed from them even discussing it. Don't make sense, do it?
What also don't make sense is that meeting took place, but the minutes are not available to the public. So
people want to talk about it, right?
That something there took place that is still under lock and key.
Exactly. So does it beg to differ that everybody that probably knew what happened in that meeting squashed it, and anybody who wasn't in compliance died because of it? Because didn't he pass away not too long ago after that?
1 year later, he passed. He was assassinated or poisoned.
Right. So apparently they assassinated him to hide that information.
We do have other.
The Washita will have that information. I remember read it from their particular website at the time. But this is some of the Washita was trying to come out about the nationality, and a lot of them end up being missing. So being quiet about it.
I don't like to go down.
There is a series.
I don't do this. I don't go down.
A few years ago. Right. Maybe 4 years ago there was some transcripts going around online. Whether they're authentic or not, I'm not sure. What we do have is from the Nation of Islam. We do have the 120 degree from 1933 from W.F. Muhammad and Elijah Muhammad. And they began to speak about what took place from 1866 until 1933 with the reestablishment of the Moroccan state, which coincides what was said myth, what was like a myth or speculation, what was said or declared in the Geneva Convention when Noble Drew Ali brought back statehood to the Moors. And what it was is that when we have it in our literature, and I'm not sure exactly where it is now, but I'm sure Moore's heard it before, and it states that when my people know who they are and they come for what is theirs, give it to them, right? And that was supposed to be the declaration that he made when he requested the flag back that was taken away from the land I think it was 1765, April 1st, or April Fool's Day, the chopping down of the cherry tree.
So does it lead to speculate that once we go to the ICJ as established Moroccan states and declare our estates back, we'll get that information and then we'll have the truth? Because that information
that is
no longer
what was said to be.
So I guess we ain't going to figure that out until we get there, right?
That's what we all striving for, because there's supposedly a lot more information about us and our, not only our culture, but divine nature that is being withheld from us.
Right. We'll find out what tribes we actually belong to if we really want to know that. I mean, I think ancestrally we want to know that. As well as all of the secrets and the lawful documentation that's been withheld from us. So it begs to question that once we go, like I said, to the ICJ and request our estates back because of the belligerency, they're not going to yield them until they are forced to yield them through international law. And Prophet Noble Drew Ali, where his statement is, it's going to be a breakfast fight, meaning once you get there, they can't even do anything once you get there. Their job is to stop you from getting there. And that's been the whole consensus thus far, is stopping us from getting there. Because once we're there, it's a no-brainer. Because Article 22, which is kind of the will and testament of our ancestors, Article 22 is the will and testament of our ancestors. That once the heirs come to claim their estates back, you have no choice. You have to, it says, immediately. Where does it say that?
That's the language, right.
It says property shall be delivered to him without interruption. And to be specifically, it says if the heir to the person deceased, and when we talk persons, that person's is that purpose. That's really trying to tell you the estate, whoever the estate is. A person in law is representing a whole conglomerate of people within that language. International law uses that language. The person deceased be present. So once the Moors come back into nationality and statehood, they have no choice but to give it back to them, because they no longer can claim you're dead and I'm dead. And they also can't refute it at all either. Because they don't have a status that supersedes our status. Islam? Anybody want to interject and add that?
How many
Islam.
states do we need?
Yes, right.
Somebody was about to ask a question?
Yes. How many states do we need to get there?
Okay. People, I don't think we need more than one, to be honest. International law doesn't say you need multiple states. It doesn't say you need 13, 12, 26, 52. It doesn't say that. You have more support, more strength, more drive if you have multiple states. But to declare and proclaim their independence from Great Britain, the lucky number is 13. That's the consensus. But you don't need 13 states to establish the United States of Morocco. But again,
right. If sorry to cut you, Wisdom, but if we understand in law, like lawfully, or when we go into the interpretation of the law, being that it's open to interpretation, whether it be local or international law. When we speak of reclaiming a state, it can come down to the persons of only one heir. You can actually be the sole heir of the state. If everyone from your nation or from your people or from your heritage no longer exists and you are the only one, and you go for your state and you go to, to regenerate your state, you go to claim that, you have every right to, even if it's only one person, one individual. That is the laws of succession. And the laws of succession, right, all right.
Absolutely. But understand, that conflicts with the fact that in order to establish a state, you have to have certain things established. And that coincides with a conversation that I was having earlier in a consultation. Our states originally, when we talk about state is identified as tribe, as family, as clan. These are all different examples of states, and the original states were based on lineage. Literally, tribal lineage. Those were the first states. And that was a family nuclear state, which was the house, and the house wasn't just one physical building. It was that family. If tribe, because our idea as it relates to a family is a wife, a woman, a man, and children, and grandmothers and grandparents. And they don't realize our tribes represented thousands of people who were all related by blood clan. By blood, for lack of a better way of saying it. And that's how our states were originally established, through different families. And someone brought that to my realization earlier today, and I was just like profound that she was thinking on that level. And I was like, wow, nobody actually thought on that level, because within our own family, we should be able to establish a state without even having to go outside to non-family members. But because half of our family are black status people, the other half are Christians, and they're trying to stay where they are as United States citizens, you feel the need to go outside, even though, pursuant to the Circle 7 Quran, under Article 25, only one mother gave us all suck. So we all are family, technically.
That is absolutely right. Like you said, going back to us being our original tribes being family, even today when you do blood ancestry, most of us have at least 67% of matching DNA. So we were always ever family. Yeah. Like that is we are the original people of the earth. That is an actual scientific fact that can be proven. And it is also recorded.
So then that begs the question, no, I ain't even going to go there. I'm not even. Anyway, now, there was a document. Has anybody read? And this is the further. You was about to say something? You was about to say something?
I want to hear the question, but I.
Okay. Huh? Okay. No, I was going to answer the question. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, because I know Sincere gets mad when I go down rabbit holes. I'm just messing with you. So the case concerning rights of nationals of United States of America and Morocco. So this is the France versus United States case. Has anybody gotten to the AMPAC study lessons where they went over this case? Okay, I'm going to take that as a no.
Yes, I have. Chriselle.
Yes, Chriselle. Would you like to, I guess, make a statement in regards to that case? What was the ultimate disposition of the case? What did they find in regards to the case?
Well, ultimately, what it really spoke on was that all the Christian powers are relegated at the same status within the Moroccan Empire, and even because the case was about to tax the United States, right?
Yeah.
But it was found out that the United States don't hold a superior position. Yes, France do hold the superior position because they are the power of attorney. But but being power of attorney doesn't qualify them to collect any taxes. So I think it was the ICJ. So France can collect the taxes, and but they all can coexist. I think that was the whole gist of it. But what was interesting was that the United States used the Treaty of Peace and Friendship to show standing. You know, like some of the same things that we see that they pretend not to recognize, they're actually using it on an international basis.
Islam. And to increase, thank you for your comment, and to add to that, based on the judgments. And I would pull it up, but I don't really feel like looking for it, y'all, because sometimes I just take too much time looking for these things. I'm going to try to make sure I have a syllabus going forward. We're sincere in terms of the code that we want to create. I think a syllabus for class in terms of what topics to go over, so I can have that core material ready, so I don't have to go start looking for it in my computer. So in terms, and I'm going to just read the case as it relates to that. And Islam Marie, Marlene, can you turn your camera off, because this class is going to be uploaded onto YouTube, and I don't want nobody's face on it. Islam, thank you. Now, the proceedings in the case, this was a judgment on the 27th of August of 1952, and the name of this ICJ, International Criminal Court of Justice case under the UN, is called the Case Concerning Rights of Nationals of the United States of America and Morocco. And they're being specific on saying they're in Morocco. United States, America is in Morocco. America is not a landmass that exists. It is a state within Morocco, the land for which exists. The proceedings in the case concerning rights of nationals of the United States of America and Morocco were instituted against the United States by an application of the government of the French Republic. The submissions of the parties related to the following principal points. The application to nationals of the United States of the residential decrees of December the 30th, 1948, by which imports without official allocation of currency, imports from the United States, were in the French zone of Morocco subjected to a system of licensing control. The extent of the consular jurisdiction which the United States may exercise in the French zone of Morocco. The right to levy taxes on nationals of the United States and Morocco, the question of fiscal immunity, with particular reference to the consumption taxes provided for by the Sharifian Dahir of February the 28th, 1948, semicolon. The method of assessing the value under Article 95 of the General Acts of Algiers of 1906 of goods and imports goods imported into Morocco. In this judgment, the court held there are 8 different sections as it relates to the judgment in this case. Okay? Unanimously, number 1. The residential decree of December the 30th, 1948 exempted France from control of imports, while the United States was subjected to such control. While the United States was subjected to such control, it thus involved a discrimination in favor of France. This differential treatment was not compatible with the Acts of Algiers, by virtue of which the United States can claim to be treated as favorably as France, as far as economic matters in Morocco are concerned. The French submissions that this decree is in conformity with the economic system which is applicable to Morocco must therefore be rejected. So that was the first decision. Decision number 2, this was a unanimous decision. With regard to consular jurisdiction, in the French zone of Morocco, the United States is entitled to exercise just jurisdiction in accordance with the terms with the terms of the Treaty of Morocco of September 16, 1836. That is to say, in all disputes, civil and criminal, between citizens or proteges of the United States. I'm going to stop there because the first one had nothing to do with Moors at the time because we weren't even in disputes with courts. We didn't even establish states yet. So we're not even a party to this, and this case was decided in 1952, okay? But in number 2, it's being specific. And this is why I talk about Moors being proteges, because based on international law, you're not stateless, and they don't call you Moors. They call you, because of our own self-determination, Negro, colored, black, African-American, etc. So because of that status, we were under protected protege status under the United States, subject to the jurisdiction because of how we self-identified within that jurisdiction. So that's how they're claiming jurisdiction over Moors, and that's what makes it a domestic and not international dispute. Hence, before the establishment of Moors coming into themselves and declaring their independence as Moroccans, at least in name only, and now at the point of establishing Moroccan states. Islam? Number 3, by 10 votes to 1, so there was only one objection to it. It is also entitled to exercise. It is also entitled to exercise consular jurisdiction in all cases, they're talking about the United States, civil or criminal, brought against citizens or proteges of the United States, to the extent required by the provisions of the Act of Algiers relating to consular jurisdictions. So they do have jurisdiction with the stateless Moors. In that case, that was the deciding factor, which is why nationality is the order of the day. So you're not subject as a protege or protected persons under the jurisdiction of the United States, pursuant to the Naturalization Act of 1870, which made all so-called Moors self-identifying as Negro, colored, black, African American. Now, number 4 is by 6 votes to 5. But the other submissions of the United States relating to consular jurisdictions are rejected. It is not entitled to exercise consular jurisdiction in other cases in the French zone of Morocco. Its rights in this connection, which were acquired solely by the effect of the most favored nation clause, came to an end with the termination by Great Britain of all its rights and privileges of a capitulatory character by the France-British Convention of 1937. So they say your jurisdiction, your consular jurisdiction does not extend past your people, your proteges, your jurisdiction domestically, in a sense, is what they're trying to say there. Number 5, unanimously, 10 votes in favor of, the United States had contended that its nationals were not subject in principle to the application of Moroccan laws, unless these laws had received its prior approval. There is, however, no provisions in any of the treaties conferring upon the United States such a right linked with the regime of capitulations, which can only exist as a corollary of consular jurisdiction. So that if the cooperation of the United States Consular Court is required to enforce a law, see Sections 2 and Sections 3. The assent of the United States is essential. When they're talking about their own jurisdiction and their own citizens and proteges, they can say approve or disapprove. But anything outside of that, meaning any other people who are not within their own jurisdiction under the United States citizenship, cannot claim this objection, meaning they don't have to follow Moroccan law that doesn't affect. They can only affect, and they only have sway or decision in things that affect their populace. Now, when it comes to Moroccan laws, they're also subject to it. Did anybody? Let me finish. If the application, did I read that? If the application of laws to citizens of the United States without its assent is contrary to international law, any dispute which may arise therefrom should be dealt with according to the ordinary methods of the settlement of international disputes. Number 6, by 6 votes to 5. No treaty provides any basis for the claim of the United States to fiscal immunity from its citizens. as it relates, again, we're talking about taxes. I'm sorry, we're talking about, what is it? Where's that? Licensing, the system of licensing control, right? Through France. So France is under the Fez, under the Treaty of Fez. France is the protectorate. France is the power of attorney of Morocco, given that power through the Treaty of Fez under the Sultan, the then Sultan of the empire. Okay? Nor can such an immunity, capitulatory in origin, be justified by the effect of the most favored nation clause, so no other state enjoys it for the benefits of its nationals. Number 7, this was 7 to 4 vote. As to the consumption taxes imposed by the Dar of February 28, 1948, these are payable on all goods, whether imported into Morocco or produced there. They are not, therefore, customs duties, the maximum rate for which are fixed at 12.5% by the signatory powers of the Acts of Algiers. Citizens in the United States are no more exempt from these taxes than any other. So they're not exempt from taxes that were established through the Act, the Journal's Act of Algiers, which is what they're saying. Now, lastly, through a 6 vote to 5, Article 95 of the Act of Algiers lays down no strict rules for the valuation of imported goods. A study of this practice since 1906 in the preliminary work of the Conference of Algiers leads to the view that this article requires an interpretation which is more flexible than those respectfully contended for by France and by the United States. Various factors must be taken into consideration by the customs authorities. The values of merchandise in the countries of origin and its value in the local Moroccan markets are both elements in the appraisals of this value. A declaration is appending to the judgment by Judge Jose, I don't know how to pronounce his name, who expresses the opinion that the United States is not entitled to exercise consular jurisdiction in cases involving the application to United States citizens of those provisions of the Act of Algiers, which, for their enforcement, carry certain sanctions. So that's pretty much with the case of France between the United States so stipulates. Because at that time, we talk about 1952, there was no Moroccan states to go to in terms of an interpretation of anything, because the Moroccan states didn't exist at that time. Islam? Anybody have any comments or questions as it relates to the judgment that I just read? I'm gonna go find it and post it on Moors to Moors later. That one page. I'll wait a couple seconds and see if y'all was paying attention.
Islam, I have a question. So when you say France, the power of attorney, right, for Morocco, is that a good thing?
Well, when you say was it a good thing, I mean, realize that the Sultan gave them power of attorney for whatever reason they gave him power of attorney, right? So now, instead of the Sultan having a pen as it relates to the entire Moroccan Empire, they gave it to France to control. Was it a good thing? Was it a bad thing? I can't make that determination. But at the time, there was no Moors worthy of receiving any type of power within the Moroccan Empire, because all the Moors was being subjugated at the time. So they were doing things that made sense to them at that particular time. Not necessarily that was good for us. We were looked at that particular time as commodities, and we always got to keep thinking like that, because the Moors were being subjugated at that time.
The Islam, Krista.
Islam.
In my estimation, it's I look at it as a good thing, in that the United States always have what seemed to be an adversary to always foil whatever plot they, whatever scheme they try to put in place to really subjugate the Moors, because France have an interest, they always kind of throw something in the game to wake everybody up to see that, hey, what you're doing, shouldn't be doing that, right? And case where they got, the United States to relinquish council jurisdiction was one of those events.
And they only relinquished consul jurisdiction as it relates to, I think, the Kingdom of Morocco, with their emergence and independence. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's presented so people don't understand what the heck is really going on.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They're not saying it in the context for which it was meant to be said. We all thought the Kingdom of Morocco was a smokescreen, right? We thought it was a smokescreen to the Moroccan Empire when it was a political maneuver by the Sultan at that time to be in alignment with current state of things based on what France, the protectorate, had established when he stepped down from his post in terms of running the empire. He got into harmony with international law by establishing a new state based on the current laws, based on the League of Nations, and then superseded after that the United Nations, because the United Nations was established in what year, y'all? Do y'all remember?
I think 48.
48.
1948. And then as soon as that was established, here you got the Sultan who literally stepped down back in 1912 through the Treaty of Fez in terms of leadership, establishes as soon as the United Nations creates France creates the United Nations, all of a sudden, or the United States creates the United States, United Nations, because I'm not sure which one, because the French, the Treaty of Fez is not still in force, and I think that ceased to exist in the 40s, 1940s sometime. I can't remember the actual date. And now all of a sudden you have Islam. That's a good point. And now you have the Kingdom of Morocco coming and declaring their independence in 1956. Yeah. I mean, it's all relative. It makes sense. And it just shows you just what is going on.
I think that the then emperor, or the person that is in charge of the Kingdom of Morocco, I think in one of the videos, it was he and the United States had some kind of private deal where he was supposed to strike Article 15 of the Treaty of Madrid. Strike that out.
Yeah, I heard that. I heard mention of that part of the treaty was stricken out of the treaty. But can you strike something that? Right. Okay, so can you take Moore's ability to nationalize away from them?
No,
did he have the power to do that?
No, he didn't have the power to do that.
What year did they try to get him to strike it out, by the way? Does anybody remember?
I think it was 52, if I'm not mistaken.
So if it was 52, he had already ceded power from the empire with the Treaty of Fez in 1912. So he didn't have the authority to strike anything out because he had already stepped down and created the Kingdom of Morocco. He started creating that back in the 40s.
Yeah, and I think that
he just declared his independence in 56.
What was mentioned was, being that the treaty was in force with other parties, one party couldn't just make a change without all the parties ratifying the treaty.
Yes, absolutely. That would cause an amendment to the treaty that had to be agreed upon. He can't just make a change to it in a document and nobody agreed to it. Especially if and think about it this way: no Moors were there to object or accept that change either. How can you put in international law Moore's ability to choose between continue to be a slave or to be independent? That's a whole contradiction to international law and statelessness and statehood. You can't say on one side, oh, you have a right to a nationality, and then on the other side say, oh, you don't have a right to choose between. You know what I mean? You got to stay where you know. But then at the same time, that freaking article gives Moors a choice whether or not they want to come back or not. Did that article even need to exist? Because all you got to do is declare your independence and become, Article 15 didn't even need to exist. For real. Rights and protections in Morocco, you're Moors. Can anybody refute your status? Can you have anybody who's not a Moor come and tell you you're not a Moor? What would give them the validity in doing that? None, because all of their states are corporate in nature because they only exist because the heirs, the indigenous population, never made a proper claim. And if anybody is unfamiliar, I did post what I was reading, by the way, on the Moors to Moors platform, just so y'all can have it to read at your leisure. I just posted it on the platform. So does anybody remember or recall what the treaty says? Article 15. So let's do a dumpster dive in that article. This computer is really getting on my nerves.
What treaty is?
Is the Treaty of Madrid, 1880. You can find it right on the main page of the Moorish American Consulate if you scroll down to the Supreme Laws of the Land, which is where I'm opening it up from right now. Just taking its little sweet time.
Article 15. And
you got it?
Yeah,
you got it, Chriselle?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I'm hoping it.
Article 15. Any subject of Morocco who has been naturalized in a foreign country and who shall return to Morocco shall, after having remained for a length of time equal to that which shall have been regularly necessary for him to obtain such naturalization, choose between entire submission to the laws of Morocco and the obligations to quit Morocco, unless it shall be proved that his nationalization in a foreign country was obtained with the consent of the government of Morocco. Foreign nationalization heretofore acquired by subjects of Morocco, according to the rules established by the laws of each country, shall be continued to them as regards all its effects, without any restriction.
Islam. So now the question is, did he have to even include that article? It's a good thing that he did include it, but all international law supports your independence. You're choosing, because it's a contractual relationship or a contractual a contract. Whether you want to stay a subject or you want to nationalize or whether you want to create a state or stay a subject, you have the right in international law to self-determination, right? So any subject of Morocco, go ahead. Somebody had a question?
It's Musa L. I wasn't trying to interrupt. I was just trying to interject that reading that Article 15 along with you on your screen, with Islam to everybody on the platform and in the meeting, including Mother YeSharon, is basically, I'm just going to keep it simple. It left it open-ended for us to come back home and to get into and to become and to exist in who we are supposed to be. But at the same time, it's a process. And I get it. But my question would be, and I don't want to take us off a topic, but my question would be, how did they have the rights to relinquish the consular courts in 1956 under Eisenhower in the first place?
What? Say it again. Restate that again.
How did the consular courts get relinquished in 1956 under Eisenhower?
You gotta go read that. You gotta go read it. I mean, that's a coded question. I mean, that's a long question. You talking about the Kingdom of Morocco, or you talking about extraterritorial jurisdiction? Razim said the Sultan stepped down.
I got you. That's why. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, that's a coded question, but I don't want to, just like you say, get too far off topic as it relates to that, because one doesn't necessarily have anything to do with Article 15, the rights of protection in Morocco. Because when we look at it, it told you specifically that United States didn't have the right to naturalize the Moors under their jurisdiction, which is why he didn't do it, which is why they even created the Naturalization Act and created a new type of status that Moors were now identifying under because of their leader guys who told them to do it. Like, our people were connected in a way where they, just like they kind of do today, you tell them to do this, they're going to do this. You tell them to do that, they're going to do that. You know what I mean? I was like, so they created that so-called classification of persons. Oh, if you want to get your freedom, you have to be, you have to change your status. Da 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 da. So as soon as so-called slavery ended and all this other stuff, Moors was just being like pushed, have y'all ever played table tennis? They were just being pushed in any old way just to keep them distracted off of what was ultimately going to liberate them and give them their freedom.
I'm good.
What's wrong? So we're coming up on the last 3 minutes on the hour in the class, and the question I have at this juncture: are there any additional questions that we want to add to the question and answer session? Because I said I was going to revisit this after we went over our topic of discussion, to add to the Ask YeSharon question and answer page on the site. Well, did I move out of the page? And if not, we can, if there's no additional
as a new more.
Say again, as a new more, yes. As someone thinking about nationality. Siobhan, turn it down.
Right. As a new more, what should I do while in transition from a corporate state into a Moroccan state if I am encountered by policy enforcers?
Oh my God,
in regards to my nationality. Because the issue we were having is that the policy enforcers felt like they have the right to not acknowledge certain documentation. And then you have to go through a whole drawn-out process. So that was a big deal. And even now I have a lot of unawakened Moors that ask that question.
So ask that question quicker, because that was such a long question, and I only think I got half of it.
As a new Moor transitioning from a corporate state to a Moroccan state, what should I do if encountered by policy enforcers who do not acknowledge my Moorish documents?
Now say it for the third time so I can make sure I got it right, because like I said, that was like a paragraph. Go ahead. And I'm writing it down.
As a new Moor in transition from a corporate state into a Moroccan state, what should I do if I encounter policy enforcers who do not acknowledge my Moorish documents or refuse to acknowledge? Hey,
Islam? That's a good question.
That is
That's
a great question. That is a great, and it was so detailed. Now, here I'm going to mess with you again. Can you say it again to make sure I got it right so when I put it on the website it don't look crazy? Go ahead. Say it again.
As a new Moor transitioning from a corporate state into a Moroccan state, what should I do if I encounter policy enforcers who refuse or do not acknowledge my Moorish documents?
Okay. Islam. Now, go ahead.
I think it's very important you take time to address the Moorish documents portion of this question, because I deal with people with traffic stops all the time, and that Moorish document part that needs to be cleared up, especially for the courts that will listen to this brief.
Islam. Thank you for asking that question.
One of the.
Go ahead. Would you say, all right, Rod? Wait a minute, Chriselle. What was you about to say, Rod? CG Bay?
Just like he said, that's the same the same dealings we were having over here, and one of the results we were trying to press while in the process of reestablishing ourselves as a state was actually through their own corporate law, because through the corporate law, if you notice, if you studied the Declaration of Independence of the United States of America, they have to acknowledge your sovereign rights, right, which are guarded out, and that is the language within their own law. So your Moorish rights are actually protected under the United States law. So when you establish yourself as that person, and they actually have to acknowledge that. So it's a matter of pointing that out in law, and then the process, ask for the supervisor to do that. But it's always a long, drawn-out thing, and sometimes Moors are actually taken into captivity by these people until they enter a court of law where they have to go through the whole process and then have their rights acknowledged.
So let's say this one. I'll answer. I would put how I would answer this in a question and answering session. So as a new Moor transitioning from a corporate state to a Moroccan state, what should I do if I encounter policy enforcers who refuse or do not acknowledge my state-issued identification card? Now, let's be fair in overstanding that because of so many people out there just doing any old thing and every old thing, they've given the ability for the Albions to establish something called a sovereign citizen. And that protocols that they have put through their organizations and their training mechanisms. And they have a whole training on that aspect of it. And the fact that you have like people who didn't even go as far as to establishing a nationality and utilizing, well, Prophet Noble Juwali told you not to flash your IDs, and because it causes confusion. Well, why did Prophet Noble Juwali say that? Because the IDs that he was giving to the Moors within those temples were just membership cards. They were not state issued identification cards from a state. That's why he made that comment. And it caused confusion because they wouldn't have anything, and still today, because there's so many Moroccan organizations, just creating IDs because, I'm just going to create an ID, and I'm just going to, no actual process involved in establishing a state or an organization or trying to support the Moors. They were just trying to get funding for themselves. So when I used to say in my videos, our sons started pimping the nation by all of a sudden, you got all these Moorish sons all over the place talking about they doing travel cards, all these different things, and they're just doing on the auspicity, I don't even know if I said that word right, of a so-called state or status or national. So we created a lot of that. And I'm not going to say we. The people who were teaching about nationality initially that got all of us out here doing it didn't do their due diligence or their just care to make sure they established the states before they even started talking about nationality. So Moors like myself, and I'm sure 90% of the people on this platform found themselves operating as if they had the authority because it was presumed based on the teachers that were out there talking about nationality. So we are part of the blame for why Moors were getting arrested and different things like that, because we had all these schisms popping up through all these organizations because everybody wanted to do their own thing because it became something profitable and lucrative, because all you had to do was post certain things out there. So we caused this problem. And majority of them don't want to fix it, which is why they're staying mute. And you don't hear them talking about Moroccan nationality or the 4 treaties that's so stipulated. And the comments that they are making in that regards are, oh, those are old treaties. They're no longer law, blah, 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 because they're in the financial position that their pockets will be completely and utterly changed, because now they have to do things differently. So let's be real, that's what it is. They went from hustling drugs to hustling nationality packets.
Islam.
So that's the problem that our Moors are going in. So when I get this question, and now I'm gonna answer it. I just wanted to give you, as a new Moor, transitioning from the United States corporation company to a Moroccan state. What should I do if I encounter the policy enforcers who refuse or do not acknowledge my state-issued ID? Now, that's why the nationality matrix is being pushed out in due care. Because we know y'all going to get your IDs, y'all going to sit here and run around and just do stuff. But we're going to put certain disclosures out there that says, look, y'all have to learn certain things in contingent, and it's our responsibility to notify internet. I'm talking about Moroccan states now. It's the Moroccan states' responsibility to notify all these international communities, as well as the so-called corporate states, as it relates to their existence today, as well as to put those departments in place so when certain things happen. So it's not going to be, okay, as soon as you get your nationality identification card, you just go ride around, go put a fake plate on your car, stop paying your insurance, stop paying your mortgage and your rent and all these different things, which all these other Moorish organizations that told people to do. Because you had the right to do it, and they lost their property, they lost their freedom, they lost their children.
Islam. Yes, that is so important.
So
yes.
I would say, the first thing I would say as you nationalize is sit your beautiful butts down and wait till you get directives from your government to start operating in certain avenues. And once those processes once those different departments start activating, that's when we'll tell you, okay, now you can trade in this and do this because now we are offering this. Now you can do this because of this because we are now offering this. You are going to get instructions to say, don't make no major drastic changes because there's a process to which got us in this. There's a process that's what's going to get out of it, and it is my responsibility and any other Moroccan state's responsibility to make sure before they push anything out, they give you the training, they give you the support, and they give you what you need that as it relates to, and you don't just go run out there to stop trying to pay everything because you're tired of paying.
Islam.
And that's what I knew to be the original process, and that was one of the reasons, if you remember in 2019, that it was like a 30 to 90 day wait of putting out notice before you take action with your documents.
Absolutely. Not only 90-day notice, there are certain things that the government has to do first before we do anything. Like in the nationality matrix is going to have certain things, so it wouldn't be prudent of any Moroccan state to just sit here and just be like, okay, well, even though you have the right. So now guess what's on the table once you do have Moroccan state status. Now anything and everything that the United States of America in the United States does to you is an international issue that can be handled. Now we can't go to the ICJ and get them sanctioned for their violations of their United States of America Constitution, as well as the treaties that so stipulate the laws between those two parties. So that's where we at, right? So now let me read this question for the last time. As a new Moor, what should I, transitioning it from corporate status to Moroccan statehood, what should I do if I encounter a policy enforcer who refuse to or does not want to acknowledge my state-issued ID. You call the Mufti. And there's going to be processes that we're putting in place right now that's going to so stipulate what would happen if you had that situation. But understand, until we get the insurance, until we get certain things established, certain things ain't even going to be pushed out to you yet. So the only thing you'll be establishing initially would be status. And then once we get to this next step, so it's a sequence of events in terms of what should be done first within our states. What do the Moors want first to establish within them? And I can tell you, based on consultations, based on emergency calls, the major issues that Moors encounter: nationality, child custody, property, taxes, detainment, jurisdiction. So that is the sequence of orders for which the nationality matrix is coming out first, and then we'll start writing legislation. The states will start writing legislation so they can support what the needs of the populace, the people, are needed. And understand, the Moors have never done this. And for the states that already have been established, the claim is you ain't going to have no issue. When you show your nationality identification card from that Moroccan state, they're going to be required to release you because there are certain things within that process that we're doing, that the states are doing on the background to support. Okay, this is just like every year, every so-called nation has their protected protégés and their protected persons. And if y'all can correlate to some of the topics that we talk about, and based on where you're at in your studies of the study lessons on the Moors to Moors platform, you'll realize that as we get nationals, it is our responsibility, as it is the state's responsibility to notify all the people who are within that. So there's internal controls that are going around that are being done. So how you originally were doing with notifying the 10 agencies, you're not going to be required to do any of that. That's the state's responsibility to let those corporate bodies know who are now members of their states and who now have sovereignty and diplomatic immunity from their states, unless there's a violation of the Treaty of Peace and Friendship where, there's an emergency because there's an injury or a pending injury, where so they could come in and resolve that as the so-called peace officers that they're supposed to be. So they get in line when we get in line. Know that. And we're getting in line. You had a question, Chriselle, before we close up? Last questions? Any other last questions we want to add to the question and answer sessions of the Ask YeSharon website?
No, it was a question. I was just going to add to what you were saying. Read how the new Moors, but all of these things, is a part of the process. So they will learn what needs to be done, and there's no need to jump the gun. It's all it's and as you are answering these questions, YeSharon, these questions are also answered in the videos.
Yep.
Yeah.
But everybody's not going to watch the videos initially when they're inquiring about nationality, because a lot of people don't even know they exist. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a new platform that has been established.
Okay.
Islam? So one of the big questions I usually have with consultations and calls and different things on that level, the questions that I normally have are, where do I go to learn? Where do I go to connect? And different things like that. which is why the website has Moors to Moors, which is why Moors to Moors was established, which is why these meetings were established, and the videos are going to start to be available so Moors can kind of see where they network in to start networking into their nation. As we start building these nations, we need people, and we need competent people, which is the most important part. Competent people. Only way you're going to get competent is getting past lesson 1 of the study lessons, or 5. Who has not started? That's a better question. Who's not started watching the study lessons on the website? Who hasn't started? And I'm talking about these study lessons here. The impact study lessons.
Islam, which is Israel's military band. YeSharon, I watched up to 79. 79 don't play, 80 don't play, but I've been watching 101s. But then I came across something that happened in Colorado where they was arguing and fighting.
Yeah, they having some internal conflicts, yeah. I don't really want to highlight those, but they are having some internal conflicts down there in Impact.
Right. And I was raised, good or bad, like I'm to stand by you guys no matter what, as I was taught from my family.
As well.
So
our people
I don't care.
Like, we love to disagree and we love to disagree, but understand this is all part of our rebuilding. This is all part of our coming back to ourselves and starting to communicate, because we haven't been communicating with each other. We've just been coexisting in social in colonialism. So now that we have a voice, sometimes we want to be the loudest voice in the room. You know what I'm saying? Don't realize we all got to be together in that room. We literally all have to be together in that room. So one of the things that we're learning as Moors is to be love, peace, freedom, and justice. We have to learn to agree to disagree, and that disagreement not be fueled with emotionality. And as one of my as an individual say, we have to learn to work together, because we've been working separate for so long. Everybody has an idea and has a way and a plan for how we are to do things, but sometimes we have to learn to listen, not to speak, just to listen. But to have a disagreement, but that disagreement shouldn't be, okay, now, we have all of this conflict. Because at the end of the day, this has to happen. Our children deserve it. You deserve it. I deserve it. We've dealt with subjugation long enough, and the longer we infight, is more time that the Albions have. So I think we need to get along for the sake of getting along.
Yeah,
and we owe it to ourselves more than anything. We owe it to ourselves.
Them Albions had fights in Congress too.
Of course they have fights.
Yeah.
Everybody has fights. Everybody has disagreements. Where do you think divorce court came from?
Yeah.
Because people disagree.
Yeah.
And with that, if there are no further questions that need to be added to the list and no further concerns, someone can pray us out of this meeting.
Islam.
Islam, CP.
Allah. Islam. Allah, Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day through his holy prophet, Jurali. Amen.
Islam. Islam, Lord.
Amen.